It was a sunny Tuesday morning when Carrie Underwood walked into the set of The Morning Exchange, a New York-based talk show known for its liberal takes on everything from politics to pop culture. Carrie was there to promote her new wellness book, Strong Roots, Stronger Woman, a mix of Southern recipes, family values, and empowering life lessons from growing up in Oklahoma. The producers had told her it would be a light, fun interview. But Carrie had been in the entertainment industry long enough to smell a setup. She'd heard whispers from her team that the show's host, Bryce Ellison, had been making snide comments about country stars being out of touch with modern values. She knew what she was walking into. And Carrie Underwood? She was ready. The studio audience cheered as she stepped onto the stage in a soft peach dress and cowboy boots, flashing that famous megawatt smile. Bryce Ellison, wearing his usual turtleneck and blazer combo, greeted her with a handshake that was about as warm as a cold latte. "Carrie, welcome. You look very rural," he smirked, before chuckling at his own joke. The audience gave a half-hearted laugh. Carrie leaned in and replied sweetly, "Thank you, Bryce. You look like you just came from a poetry slam at a vegan wine bar." The audience roared. Bryce blinked. The game was on. They started with the usual questions about her music, her family, and her new book. Carrie handled it all with grace. Then Bryce pivoted. "So Carrie," he said, tapping his cue cards, "your book talks a lot about traditional values, faith, and family. Don't you think that kind of thinking is, well, outdated in today's progressive society?" Carrie tilted her head. "Outdated? Bryce, my grandmother taught me how to pray, cook cornbread, and shoot a rifle before I was 12. She lived through the Depression and never once asked for a handout. Outdated or not, those values built character." The audience clapped. Bryce pushed further. "But aren't those values a bit exclusive? Not everyone fits into that mold." Carrie nodded thoughtfully. "I agree. Not everyone needs to fit into the same mold. But there's nothing wrong with loving your roots. That's like saying a tree's branches matter more than its roots. Cut off the roots, Bryce, and the tree falls." That line hit hard. Even the cameraman gave her a nod. Trying to regain control, Bryce made a sharp turn. "You've said before that you believe in the Second Amendment. Are you really saying guns are a solution to modern problems?" Carrie grinned, leaned back, and said, "No, Bryce. I'm saying that my grandfather hunted to feed his family during hard times. Guns weren't a solution, they were survival. You think Whole Foods is gonna drop a deer in your lap?" The audience was now on its feet. Laughter echoed through the studio. Someone from backstage tried to wave Bryce off from digging deeper, but it was too late. He was in too deep. And Carrie? She was just warming up. She crossed her legs and looked at Bryce with that calm, country girl confidence that said, "Bless your heart. You don't even know you've lost." And the real showdown hadn't even started yet. As the segment rolled on, Carrie Underwood was the picture of poise. Bryce Ellison, on the other hand, was visibly sweating under the studio lights. The audience sensed a shift in power. The sleek liberal host who usually commanded the room was now fumbling, while the small-town superstar was effortlessly dismantling his arguments with charm and wit. Bryce tried one last jab. "Well, Carrie, you talk a lot about personal responsibility and hard work, but isn't that rhetoric used to dismiss people who are genuinely struggling in today's system?" Carrie didn't flinch. She leaned in closer, her southern twang becoming just a little more pronounced, a subtle warning shot. "Bryce, I know what struggle looks like. I've seen families lose everything to tornadoes and rebuild with nothing but their faith and their hands. I grew up watching my parents work double shifts just to keep the lights on. So don't lecture me about hardship from your Manhattan high-rise. Struggle doesn't care about politics, but strength? That comes from values, not victimhood." Boom. The audience exploded. Applause thundered through the studio as Bryce blinked, stunned. The show's director cut to commercial a few seconds early, panicked. But the damage was done. Those last 20 seconds were live. And just like that, Twitter/X blew up. At Country Girl Forever, OMG, Carrie Underwood just ended that guy's whole career on live TV. At Liberal Snob Watcher, Bryce just got barbecued by a country queen. Bless his heart. At Daily Freedom News, Carrie Underwood, the voice of a generation and now the voice of reason. Clips from the interview were already being cut and reposted in every corner of the internet. Carrie claps back was trending within 10 minutes. A gif of her saying, "You think Whole Foods is gonna drop a deer in your lap?" had already racked up 5 million views. By the time the show returned from commercial break, Bryce looked like he'd aged 10 years. Carrie, meanwhile, sipped from her coffee cup like she just won a Sunday bake-off. The producers tried to lighten the mood with a segment about spring fashion, but the viewers had already tuned out. They were too busy flooding YouTube with hot takes. Even late-night comedians picked it up. Jimmy Fallon, did y'all see Carrie Underwood take down Bryce Ellison this morning? That was so brutal, even Taylor Swift wrote a breakup song about it. The next morning, Carrie's book sales tripled. Her publisher sent her a bouquet of sunflowers with a card that read, "Next time, let's do a debate tour." But while most people were celebrating her for standing her ground, not everyone was happy. On the far left side of the internet, Bryce's defenders claimed she'd embarrassed a respected journalist. Op-eds popped up within hours. Is Carrie Underwood too conservative for morning TV? And Southern stars and the rise of cultural populism. But Carrie didn't bite. She posted a simple video from her porch swingback in Tennessee that evening. "Hey y'all, thanks for all the love. I'm just a girl with a guitar, a story, and a little sass. We can disagree and still be kind. But don't mistake kindness for weakness. Love y'all." That video alone got 18 million views in 24 hours. Bryce, meanwhile, announced he'd be taking a week off to reflect. Carrie was winning not just the internet, but the hearts of millions who were tired of being talked down to. The Bryce Ellison clip wasn't just trending, it was dominating. By Wednesday morning, Fox and Friends ran a full 10-minute segment titled, "Carrie Underwood, Voice of the Silent Majority?" Meanwhile, The View debated her appearance like it was a Supreme Court case. Joy Behar said, "She sounded like a Republican campaign ad in rhinestones." But Whoopi Goldberg nodded thoughtfully. "I may not agree with her, but you can't deny. She owned that moment." Carrie didn't respond to critics. She was too busy doing what she always did. Taking care of her boys, baking banana bread, and rehearsing for her upcoming tour. But the media storm refused to calm. That Friday, she was invited to perform at a charity concert in Nashville to support tornado relief efforts. Halfway through her set, in front of 20,000 fans, she paused between songs. "I wasn't planning to say anything," she said, smiling under the stage lights. "But since I've apparently gone viral for standing up for faith, family, and a little bit of common sense, let me just say this." The crowd grew quiet. You don't have to live in a big city or follow trends to have a voice. You don't have to tear others down to stand strong in your values. And if someone thinks cornbread and country boots make me less smart, well, bless their hearts. The crowd erupted. People waved American flags. One guy threw a camo hat on stage. Carrie laughed, picked it up, and wore it for the next song. By the next morning, #CarrieForPresident was trending. Most meant it as a joke. But not everyone. The team at the Morning Exchange scrambled for damage control. Bryce Ellison, still on leave, released a carefully worded statement. "I respect Ms. Underwood's opinions, even if I strongly disagree. I apologize if I came across as dismissive. We must have space for respectful dialogue." Carrie didn't respond directly, but fans noticed she liked a tweet that read, "Bryce just learned the hard way. Don't bring a soy latte to a country showdown." Meanwhile, something unexpected happened. A quiet call came in from a White House staffer. The current administration, centrist, walking a tightrope between both parties, had seen the public reaction. Carrie was invited to speak at the annual National Faith and Values Summit in Washington, D.C. "Me?" Carrie laughed when her agent told her. "I'm just a country singer with a couple Grammys and a mean casserole recipe." "That's exactly why they want you," her agent replied. When the news hit the press, commentators lost their minds. MSNBC. A pop country singer giving a keynote at a policy summit? What's next? Kid Rock chairing the Federal Reserve. Fox News. Finally, a voice from real America at the table. Carrie didn't go to make headlines. She went because her faith meant something to her. She walked onto that DC stage in a powder blue dress. No teleprompter, no fancy speechwriters, just heart. "I didn't come here as a politician," she began. "I came here as a mom, a wife, and a girl who used to sing to chickens on the front porch. I came to remind us that values aren't red or blue. They're human." She talked about loving your neighbor, working hard, staying humble, and teaching your kids to say ma'am and sir. It wasn't political, it was personal. But somehow it resonated across the board. Reporters couldn't spin it. Even critics called it surprisingly moving. By the end of her speech, she got a standing ovation, not just from conservatives but even a few old-school liberals in the back. The president, watching from the West Wing, reportedly turned to his advisor and said, "We underestimated her." The Monday after the Faith and Values Summit, Carrie was on the cover of 3 major magazines. Headlines read, "From country star to culture warrior Time. Carrie's moment, faith, fame, and firestorms Rolling Stone. The Southern belle who shook Washington people." But with fame came the fury. A viral TikTok thread tried to dig up every problematic thing Carrie had ever said, which wasn't much. One video tried to cancel her for a tweet where she said, "I pray every night before bed." Another one showed a clip from years ago where she said she liked hunting with her dad. "That's violence," cried a user with blue hair and 30K followers. Unfollowed. Entertainment Weekly published a hit piece, "Carrie Underwood, America's Sweetheart or a Right-Wing Mascot?" It was open season. Brands she'd worked with started getting pressure. One major makeup line quietly pulled back from an upcoming campaign. A vegan blogger with 500,000 followers posted, "Why is Carrie Underwood still platformed in 2025? Even some of her peers in the music industry distanced themselves. But Carrie? She wasn't scared. She posted an Instagram story sitting on her porch in jeans and boots, her golden retriever beside her. "I sing because I love it. I speak because I care. And I believe what I believe, not because it's popular, but because it's true to who I am. Y'all stay true too." Her fans rallied hard. Country stations began replaying her old hits, but this time with commentary about American values. Her concerts sold out faster than ever. And in small towns across the South and Midwest, you couldn't walk into a Cracker Barrel without hearing her name. But the biggest backlash came when a Hollywood Awards show where she was scheduled to perform uninvited her. Their reasoning? "We want to avoid controversy." Carrie didn't flinch. She tweeted, "No worries. I've sung in barns with better acoustics anyway." Mic dropped. The tweet broke the internet. At Freedom Mama 99, Carrie just told Hollywood to kiss her cowboy boots. "I stand harder now." At Country Strong Jake, "If they cancel her, we cancel them." At Liberty Rising, "When fake glamour pushes out real grace, we know who wins in the long run." Meanwhile, Fox Nation offered her a documentary deal. Netflix threw a passive-aggressive tweet her way, then quickly deleted it after they were ratioed to the moon. But the real surprise came from within Nashville. Legends like Garth Brooks, Reba McEntire, and Alan Jackson came to her defense. Reba even posted, "When I started out, the industry didn't like a loud country girl with opinions. Glad Carrie's picking up the torch." That message alone turned the tide. Suddenly, Carrie wasn't the outlier. She was the standard bearer. A woman who wasn't afraid to speak from the heart, challenge the elite, and still bring casseroles to church on Sunday. But the final twist? The Ellen Show, now hosted by a younger, edgier comedian, requested her for a redemption interview. Carrie declined. Instead, she chose a lesser-known podcast called Front Porch Talk, hosted by a pastor and a single mom from Kentucky. "Let the people who actually listen to me hear the truth," she said. In the interview, she was raw, real, and calm. "I'm not trying to divide people. I'm just tired of being told that my roots, my faith, and my love for this country make me backwards. I'm raising 2 boys, and I want them to know it's okay to be strong, kind, and unafraid." That episode hit #1 on Apple Podcasts within 2 days. 6 months passed. The headlines had cooled, the social media mobs had moved on, but Carrie Underwood? She was just getting started. Her summer tour, Faith and Fireflies, was officially the highest-grossing country tour of the year. But it wasn't just the music drawing the crowds, it was her message. In a culture that felt increasingly chaotic, Carrie's steady voice became something of a lighthouse. She ended each show with the same message. Don't let the world bully you out of your faith, your values, or your voice. And if they try, smile sweetly, say God bless, and keep on singing. Fans ate it up. By now, she was more than a singer, she was a movement. A grassroots campaign began circulating petitions to get her to run for office seriously. One group started producing Carrie 2028 t-shirts. Her team laughed it off at first, but the calls kept coming. One evening, after putting her kids to bed, Carrie sat on the porch with her husband, Mike Fisher. He sipped sweet tea and looked out over the Tennessee hills. "You ever think maybe all this happened for a reason?" Carrie glanced up. "What do you mean?" "I mean, maybe God's using you. You didn't pick a fight, but you stood up, and people followed." Carrie smiled quietly. "I'm just a girl with a guitar," she said. But even she couldn't deny what was happening. Churches were using her summit speech in youth classes. Small-town mayors quoted her at community events. Even school boards were reaching out asking her to speak to young girls about confidence, conviction, and staying true to yourself. Then, the shocker, she was offered the headline performance at the next Super Bowl halftime show. The NFL had spent years trying to juggle entertainment with culture wars. But Carrie was the rare figure who stood for something without being divisive or worse, boring. She wasn't interested in politics. She was interested in truth. She called her team. Only on one condition, she said. No backup dancers in Speedos, no pyrotechnics that look like a Marvel movie, and no political slogans. Just me, the band, a choir of kids, and one big American flag. The NFL execs hesitated, but fan pressure sealed the deal. Game day arrived. Millions tuned in, unsure what to expect. The stadium went black. A single spotlight lit up the field. Carrie stepped forward, dressed in denim, leather boots, and a rhinestone mic. She strummed her guitar and began. Musical note, this is my country, this is my prayer. For every heart that's burdened, for every soul out there, musical note. Then came her smash new single, Stand Tall, Stand True. A gospel choir joined in. Fireworks soared behind a giant waving flag. The crowd lost their minds. And when it ended, the camera caught a close-up of her face, calm, proud, and smiling as she whispered, God bless America. The next day, social media was speechless. Even late-night hosts who'd mocked her months earlier couldn't deny it. She owned that stage. Bryce Ellison, the liberal host who started it all? He was quietly moved to a podcast platform and reportedly went through media humility training. Meanwhile, Carrie's Spotify streams exploded, her books flew off shelves, and a major university offered her an honorary doctorate in cultural leadership. But for Carrie? Nothing changed. She still baked cookies for her kids. She still led worship at her small Tennessee church. And she still walked barefoot through her garden humming old hymns as the sun rose. In an exclusive People interview a month later, she was asked if she'd ever consider a run for office. Carrie laughed. I think the world's had enough politicians. Maybe it just needs more moms, singers, and people willing to speak with love. She paused. But if I ever did run, she added with a wink, I already know my campaign song. Musical note, Jesus, take the wheel, musical note.